Two Guys, One Shaker Cup podcast, hosted by Joshua Shaw and Ryan Buckeye.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside Two Guys, One Shaker Cup podcast. It is fresh in the morning, Saturday. Now, when you guys listen to this, it's not a Saturday, but Saturdays are for the boys. And today's actually kind of a cool day, Josh. My home state, the Wisconsin Badgers, play your alma mater in a foosball game that Kent State's going to get absolutely demolished on national television. Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah, I think the point spread's 35, something like that. So
yeah, not bad.
Yeah, so I think whoever the 3 or 4 people that tune into ESPN, where the game is on, you guys are probably Wisconsin fans, not Kent State fans. So I'm going to be in a world of hurting today. So I might need a few pints of ice cream or some beers or something like that to drown my sorrows in.
I'm always curious what Kent State does with like the $2 million they make on this game or whatever Wisconsin pays them. Like, I mean, it didn't help your tuition by any means. So I don't know if the campus has anything cool because of this, but it's always interesting to see what those guys spend that money on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I wish it would go to me. That would have been great. But it goes to all those great building improvements that now all the students get to enjoy.
Yeah, that we didn't have when we were there. And students get to enjoy a lot of cool stuff now. People get to enjoy a lot of cool stuff in 2019, almost 2020, which is absolutely crazy. But the topic of conversation on today's show really surrounds this topic of fitness and what does fitness look like here as we move into the 2020, 2025, 2030, because even in the past couple of years, it's shifted dramatically. Traditionally, people would work out in the gym, right? You get a gym membership, you do that. That is the traditional way to, I guess, approach fitness. And I don't think that changes. I think that stays. That type of fitness training will always be available in some way, shape, or form. I think the way in which we consume that type of product is going to change, like the boutiques, the niche type of locations. But we're very interested in, we live in this digital world, digital era, that we obviously have this digital platform of a podcast that everything is going that way. And we've seen brands, come out, do pretty well. And what some people are saying, is this the future of working out? Is this what's going to be? So, Josh, you've covered a lot of this stuff, actually, on your channel for J. Shaw Consulting. And I want to talk about a lot of things. But let's talk about the traditional, brick-and-mortar fitness model that we've been accustomed to knowing. I just went on the record saying I don't think it shifts or changes very much. How do you see the physical gyms and the physical fitness centers adapting to new technology and the new way we do things?
I think, for us to assume that the fitness and gym kind of world does not kind of follow a lot of what's happening in the world in general. So if we want to point to maybe retail, you have this kind of shift happening with the polar ends of kind of the positioning, pricing, or just offerings in terms of how to differentiate yourself. So you have the economical side, which in the gym sense, that's Planet Fitness, which I think works really well. We've talked about it on this podcast a ton of different times, just about how $10, set it and forget it.
Yeah. And
they just kind of continuously make that recurring revenue. And then you have kind of the opposite end of the spectrum is more of the premium or luxury type of gym aspects. And that's going to be, the boutique ones like you talked about. Even CrossFit kind of started that off where people were willing to pay $200 a month to go to a warehouse gym with some barbells and things. So that is kind of providing to me an experience. There's a premium element into some of those gyms that have baked into the price point that makes sense. But then there's the opposite side where people are pricing in kind of the experience piece of it. People are willing to spend more money to get a community aspect or some type of team building or whatever it is that they kind of get out of that experience. So you're going to have those types of things that are going to happen. And I think you're seeing that across all different areas in the economy right now. I also think you're going to see, similar to what the retail world is happening with just technology, where a Walmart can no longer just be analog Walmart. It has to be omni Walmart. It has to be, frictionless in terms of when somebody wants to go in there. They have to be technologically advanced to offer what that customer wants when they want it in that store or maybe when they're at home. So gyms are going to have to start thinking similar to that. And I think that's where a lot of this connected fitness stuff is going right now with the Pelotons and the Fight Camps or the mirrors or all those types of things. That's kind of fitting the overall need for those types of people. But smart gyms would, I mean, big ones, they're going to have to be big, obviously, to probably invest in this, but they can create an online, offline type of experience similar to Walmart. I just haven't really seen a lot of them dive deep into that. I know at Gold's Gym, they have like some apps that you can do some workouts maybe when you're on the road or things like that, but it's not like a full experience with equipment and on-demand classes and things that you could do at home.
It is interesting because of the traditional retail or the traditional gym locations, physical locations. To your point, I think they do have to adapt and adopt the digital era in theirs. And whether it be, if there are certain circuits or certain workouts that people go through, they connect, and then their smartphone connects with that machine while they're doing their reps. It records it. It goes into a bigger community pool. You can see how you rate versus your peers. Make sort of more of a community. That was one thing about you mentioned CrossFit. And CrossFit kind of came out of nowhere. Like, it's been around for a while. But it really blew up because it was super easy to open a CrossFit gym. People wanted that sense of community. It was a niche, very inexpensive to start up. And, there's CrossFit gyms in almost every major city in the United States, I think, at this point. And that is a genre of fitness that's not for everybody, but I don't see that really going anywhere anytime soon. I think it keeps gaining in popularity. If anything, you see some of these CrossFit athletes getting some major endorsements from some big brands because they are physically fit. Like Superior, Netflix is doing documentaries on these fittest athletes in the world. So, in terms of the physical locations, to Josh's point, I think the middle is where you see a fallout, right? So the Planet Fitness is at $10 a month. You can't compete with that. And honestly, it's not a bad gym. It's not a bad gym. It has what you need. You can do, and their location of these Planet Fitnesses, they're quite popular, especially in major metropolitan areas. Then you have your Equinoxes or your Lifetime Fitnesses that offer sort of that status symbol, that premium experience. But the in between, the middle, and I've said this before, like your LA Fitnesses of the world, your Crunch Fitnesses of the world. There's nothing really special about these places. It's just a $50 to $60 a month gym with equipment. Unless they're going to offer some type of value add or value proposition, you're going to have to decide as a consumer, is it worth spending $60? Do I want the salon experience? Do I want the warm towel experience of a Lifetime Equinox? Or am I cool with just going in for 45 minutes to an hour, getting a quick workout, and then saving $50 a month by spending $10 a month on Planet Fitness? The other area in which you're going to see growth is these different niche boutique locations. So you think of your Orange Theories and some of these locations that have just a specific type of workout that they do. You'll probably see more growth in that area because that's really when you think about opening a gym, you have to think differently and you have to have a point of differentiation and some value proposition in order to survive. And quite often that is what type of training are you offering your clients? Are you a boxing gym? Are you, like I said, are you an Orange Theory? Because I don't think it's going to be as easy as it once was, and it's not. So just open up a normal weight room and expect people to come. Unless you're the only weight room within 50 miles of a major gym, then you might survive. But if location's not into your advantage, you're going to struggle, which is why people, I think, are turning to apps and at-home exercise equipment. So at-home exercise is not new. When we drew up this episode, all I could think about was Richard Simmons, and his VHS tapes and all the stuff that our parents would watch if they were into it. That was fitness before gyms became popular, but that model has not really shifted much. I mean, the way we consume that media has shifted. It's no longer on a VHS tape. It's through our smartphone. But the Richard Simmons concept from 1966 or whatever it was is still very relevant in 2020.
It's funny that you mentioned Richard Simmons. This is kind of similar to that. I just consumed a piece of content, I think this week sometime on Inc., the magazine on their website. They had a video and a little bit of an article around how Jazzercise has survived 50 years or something since the creation of it. And it's come through all these iterations, and now it's this new thing and whatever. But it's funny that, these things have survived so long because those are kind of the trailblazers, I guess you could say, in terms of the connected fitness world, because they were these at-home VHS tapes, or I don't even know, beta tape. I don't know. Back then, this is dating us because we're definitely not that old, but it's that's kind of how it kind of moved into DVDs, and then now obviously everything's on our smartphones, and then now you have trackers and different type of things you can wear that actually gives some data to how you're actually doing over just, hey, I think I'm sweating, or hey, I think I'm doing pretty well. And that's unique in its sense in itself, because a lot of people now are looking to get some actual quantitative data behind what they're doing. Yep. And these connected fitness technologies allow you to get some type of quantitative data that you hopefully can maybe crunch down and figure out some different things about you, especially if you're super nerdy about that kind of stuff. It provides a really good value to you. But going to just the traditional gym and just, going through the paces and thinking to yourself, hey, I think I did a pretty good job today, or hey, I really think I pushed myself. But did you really? You don't really know exactly. And this kind of provides that ability to be able to be doing it in your home, which I think now with everybody being extremely busy in their schedule, or everybody assuming they're busier than what they were before, you can now crunch that exercise time into your just normal routine in between being a mom or running businesses or just whatever it is that you have on your day-to-day. It kind of provides a bunch of different value points that is super unique to the kind of the analog old school gym experience of the past.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, just like how we bring I wouldn't say VHS was digital per se, but it's the at-home stuff. But I mean, even like some of the ab crunch exercise DVDs and whatever you could buy, or P90X, there was always a piece of equipment that you would buy that would be used in conjunction with the DVD, in conjunction with the VHS. That's no different than Peloton. Peloton is the same way. You buy the physical bike, which is an investment. I don't think they're cheap. And then I believe it's a subscription model. You can correct me if I'm wrong, on the content, which is no different than sitting in your living room with that ab cruncher doing the ab exercises from the VHS, except for your content is ever changing because you're paying a subscription model, and now you can do it in the comfort of your own home. You save the commute time to and from the gym. It's actually more safe because, the chances of you being on the road, potentially getting in an accident. There's a lot of benefits to this at-home stuff. But when I first, I want to focus a little bit on Peloton. When I first saw Peloton, I said, well, first off, this is going to be an extremely expensive business venture because there's inventory with all this equipment that they're doing, unless they have a partnership with a bike company, and you would know better than I do. But I just remember seeing their physical retail location at Mall of America, and I thought, that can't be cheap. That is not a cheap lease for what they're doing, and I don't think they've been profitable yet to date, or maybe they have been, or not close.
No, they haven't.
So, is that model sustainable? Is it possible to have that model and actually work, or is this just trial and error? It was cool while it lasted, but eventually it's probably going to fade out.
Yeah, the price of the bikes overall, I think, is maybe $1,200, and then they have a treadmill which is $2,500, and then as you said, there's a subscription price that you get the on-demand classes and different things like that. I think it's maybe $40 or $50 a month. So it's not from the consumer side, it's not cheap.
Right.
But the equipment, I don't know if when you were at the Mall of America, if you had a chance to at least interact with it a little bit. I've tried it a few times. I don't own one, but when I've been at certain hotels where they have them at, I have jumped on because I'm like, hey, let me try this out because it's something kind of unique. And I've had a really great experience with the product. And I'm not somebody that takes group fitness classes, and I'm definitely not somebody that jumps on a normal standard bike and just kind of jump on it and do that for 30 minutes. It's not something that I normally do, but I enjoyed the experience that I got from taking a class and being competitive and doing all those things. So that in itself, somebody like me that wouldn't be a normal consumer of the product and interacting with it and then feeling like I was a fan of it, I think then that has a lot of runway, because I think that nowadays people are really focused on experiences and getting something out of that. And if you could provide that, be it a fitness equipment, a retail experience, whatever, it has runway to it. Now, there's always the opposite side of it. You have to manage your costs. Right. And I think that that's where this kind of all breaks down a little bit for Peloton, at least in the short term, because they have to get it up to scale where the content costs a lot of money. They're paying these really top trainers a lot of money right now. The more people they can get into these classes, the more per person, the price drives down on the economics on there for them. They also are leasing different retail locations and different things like that, where eventually the brand supersedes the need to do a lot of those things, and you can maybe not go to the Mall of America. Maybe you can find a cheaper lease if you still wanted to do that, or you just go straight direct to consumer because you've built it up for so much time. But there's so many other cost drivers, I think, on Peloton's business that have been restrictive for them right now, but they are a tech company at heart. So there's a lot of costs that have been put into this product up front to get it going. And then now there's iterative type of advancements that hopefully when you get scale into the system, it will kind of get all that out of it. It's kind of similar to a lot of the startups recently that you have to like super overinvest at the beginning, get scale on the product, and then eventually you're able to make a profit on it. Even in Uber, like right now, I mean, think about how big of a impact that is to people's lives. That has never been profitable. Right. So it takes time. The bigger the idea, the bigger the concept, the longer it's going to take to become profitable. And I'm not advocating anybody go out and buy Peloton right now, because you can buy. It's a publicly traded company right now. I think it went IPO'd maybe 2 weeks ago. So you can go out and buy this stock. I'm not saying that you should do that. Maybe you should wait to see what happens. But it's a very interesting business. And I think that for me, the product experience that I got out of it turned me into kind of a fan of it. I was like, whoa, I mean, maybe I want to buy this one day. This would be great if they, maybe came out with something that was more applicable to the way that I work out on a day-to-day basis.
So that's the question. You had a good experience. Then are you willing to essentially invest in an initiation fee or an orientation fee that a gym would charge you of $1,200 or $2,500? That's the big question mark with stuff like that. It's a really cool concept, good idea. And I'd be interested to hear from our listeners too, like how many of you people actually, and probably in our listening audience more so than not, might own some home gym equipment because of the space that we're in. But like the traditional people, like back in the day, I think it was pretty popular to see treadmills and like bikes and stuff in homes. But now I don't see it as often. Like if you have equipment in your home, it's because you have a home gym and you spent a lot of money on that gym, and that's where you work out. Because I think people still like this idea of getting away from their home and getting out of their home to going to an environment or a place of community, a place that preaches and wants you to have hard work. When it's just you in your home with a non-connective piece of equipment. Let's clarify that. Very difficult. Now, in this case, it's connective. Like there's people that are pushing you. There's a community that you're going and you're being a part of. But it's still an upfront investment that if I go to a Planet Fitness, there's a $0 initiation fee. If I go to an LA Fitness, maybe it's $50. You're asking me to invest $1,200 on a bike, or if I'm a treadmill guy, I want it's $25 up front. It's still a big investment for a lot of people. And you know, Josh, as well as I know, that a lot of people who do maybe the cardio or the bike stuff are going to be probably like first timers or newbies into fitness, and they fall off the bandwagon pretty quickly. Like you look at the New Year's resolution and the gym memberships go up, and 3 weeks later they tailor down. So it's interesting. I think that is like a very cool, unique way to approach fitness. I think if you're going to sell home equipment, you have to have a connected subscription-based model and always ever change the content to make it valuable to the consumer. But another part of that then too is like, let's talk about Mirror for a second, because I mentioned to you before, I've seen their commercials and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what the fuck is this? Like, it's kind of creepy for a second, but it's also like you're staring in a mirror, you're staring at a trainer, and it could be in your kitchen, it could be your living room, wherever you put it. Like this concept I thought was fake. I thought it was a joke at first, and I thought maybe it was like a Kickstarter campaign, but this is as real can get. What do you know about Mirror, and like, what is that? Is this? Do you think it's going to be successful?
I too had watched some of the commercials, and at first I was like, "What the heck is this? Like, is this has to be a joke?" Honestly, I was like, people hang a mirror up, and then it just kind of holograms a trainer in front of you, and it starts to put a bunch of data and how well you're doing against the classes and the people that are also taking the on-demand content. But it is a very real business, and it is growing substantially, and it's actually even. It's even gotten such a popularity around it that there has been people taking some iterations to it. Like there's one specifically with a company called Tonal, which is basically like Mirror, but it also has a cable crossover with the Mirror aspect of it. So you have basically like the weight training aspect of it, but you're also having the trainer in front of you doing those types of things. So it has to become as popular to the point where people feel like they need to copy it and make advancements to it. So I think you and I had underestimated Mirror specifically, because I think it's starting to do a lot better than what we initially thought.
I just looked it up real quick here, and their flagship store is in New York City. I'm going to New York on Monday. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go check it out. Like, I'm going to make a point to go to this store and actually talk with sales reps there. And the cost of the mirror is $1,500. It looks like you can do it. And then there's a $39 a month subscription fee. So your upfront cost is $1,500, $39 a month subscription fee. But yeah, it's a legit mirror that just hangs on the wall. Like it can legitimately just be reflective content until you turn it on. Okay. I mean, I'm very interested in just like interacting with this piece of equipment to see like, is it for me? It's not for me. Like I need the iron, I need the weight room, I need the gym. But I think for especially like moms and women and even like guys who have a very busy schedule, it might be a really solid option. And actually in the scheme of things, like we're talking about Peloton at $1,200, $2,500, $1,500, that's not that expensive. I mean, that's a home gym costs way more. And if you're getting content each month that's different and it's changing things up, it can make it fun. I think that's a really cool thing. It's just weird. It's different. 5 years ago, if you told me like the future of fitness was you'd be looking into a mirror at a trainer and that's what you're gonna be doing, I've been like, no, you're not. That's not going to be a thing. And here we are. It's legitimately reality in 2019.
Yeah, it might be showing our ignorance to this because I'm starting to think when you're talking about it, I'm thinking, well, what makes this much different than having these classes on demand on your $600 or $1,000 TV that also does a bunch of other things. It's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, that's me not knowing the product, and I've not tried the product. I know when we initially talked about this and you brought it up to me, I reached out to Mirror and was trying to get some senior leadership to make some comments because I was just interested in on the business side of it. I didn't really think too much into the product side of it because I hadn't interacted with it or thought to check it out too far. But I think that it would be super interesting for you to get some in-store thoughts on it just to kind of see what it is, because I think that a lot of people maybe listening to this might not even know what the heck Mirror is, or they might not have seen those commercials. No. So this might be a completely new experience for them.
Yeah, and it's like, and I'm just, again, looking at some of the variables and workouts. Like they have everything from kickboxing to boxing to cardio, pre and postnatal. Like they have very specific type workouts. That's genius, actually. They have weight training workouts. So I'm going to bring a camera with me, and I'm going to say, can I film in this store? Because I'd like to get some content and see some of it, because I'm very interested in this. Because I'm also interested, like, are these at-home solutions also feasible to put into a physical gym? Like you mentioned, you were at a hotel that had the Peloton equipment. I think that's brilliant. Would a gym do it? Would a gym be willing to put in like a row of Peloton bikes for their gym goers? Because that's a point of differentiation. Like our bikes here have classes, so instead of you going out and physically hiring a spin instructor, you have all the bikes right there. You get maybe a bulk discount on a subscription model because you're a gym. Could be more beneficial for the gym. So like I think there's some synergies with some of these futuristic ideas that could actually be embedded into what we consider like traditional. And I think there's an opportunity there.
I know, like, I'm moving apartments in a couple months, and I know the one that I'm moving into, they specifically are going to have a studio in the gym area of the community property that has a ton of Pelotons, and that's going to be kind of that area to not have to hire like group fitness instructors. They can just basically put all those up there, those connected fitness piece of equipment, and then essentially you can create your own organic classes or just kind of do your own thing at the time. So I know at least in that application, people are already thinking that way. It might be the same for a gym. I don't know what the cost of economics over time, like having to pay a group fitness instructor, have to go out there and source them if there's turnover. Right. I don't know any of those kinds of things, but it might make sense like long term, especially if these Peloton bikes, I don't know if they're commercially built like to sustain maybe the type of usage at a gym, but if it is, and you can get the same amount of life cycle that you get a traditional spin bike on it, it might make sense over time. I just, I have to do the math in my head, and it's a little bit too tough for me right now. But it's morning time, as people had heard earlier today. When we talked about the mirror, I initially was thinking a little bit about maybe in the future it starts to maybe project something out like in an augmented reality sense, like to gamify the workout. Right. And like in the sense of like, you remember Pokemon Go, that was kind of like the first like AR gamify type of thing where we had on our phone where people were going out there and like literally like getting out and being active. It was unique in the sense that for me, I was like, man, this is something that a fitness company should be really watching, because all of a sudden people are going out and like going to parks and they're walking around and they're doing all this exercise just to go out and find Pokemon or whatever. Yeah. I don't know that kind of stuff, but I think that in the sense of like a mirror, like that projecting things out in your living room that maybe you have to jump over or you climb under or whatever it is, it kind of like creates faux equipment that is there in your thing that you don't have to go out and buy, not a physical thing that you have to put away each time. And if you have family or whatever, that it's going to get in the way of your family room or things. So I think that's kind of unique that it could happen. I don't know if that is something that's on their product dev map or not, but it kind of transitions into one of the last areas, like future wise, we're talking about future fitness, is around like virtual reality.
Yeah.
And that is when things get a little bit Jetsons for people. They start to freak out a little bit because you are putting on, right now you'd have to put on like a headset, but eventually maybe it's just a lens or something like that that's embedded into you, where you're actually able to take classes in a different reality, in a different world. And people that are listening to this are probably like, it's crazy, it's not going to happen, whatever. But there are startups that are already doing that. And one, to bring it really close to home for everybody, is that the co-founder of bodybuilding.com has a virtual reality startup in the fitness world called Black Box VR. So somebody can look that up. Ryan DeLuca and a few other people had kind of started that a couple years ago after he left bodybuilding.com. And now that is opening up gym locations. I think there's one in Boise where they're headquartered at, also in San Francisco. It just makes sense for being in the epicenter of technology.
Right.
But it is starting to take form, this VR reality type of world where you're going to be working out in a completely different reality around you. It's going to be completely unique. It could be completely personalized to what you're looking for, and it could change like a video game. This kind of, we mentioned this before, or at least I know that I mentioned on our podcast on esports, but where I thought the esports and the Olympics go, and I thought that esports goes virtual reality and it becomes this mashup of actual physical activity, but also a game within that. So it's not just joysticks, it's VR, it's moving around, it's doing physical activity, but within a game sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know if have you noticed any of that stuff with Black Box VR?
I follow Ryan on LinkedIn. Yeah, so I've been watching his progress for the last couple of years on it, and I think it's genius. I think it's cool. I mean, they have, like you said, 2 gyms right now, Boise and San Francisco. This requires people to actually go into a gym because it's set up specifically for the programs that the VR, virtual reality headset, was designed to do. But that is an experience in itself. Like, you see airports have virtual reality like hubs now that people can go and spend time doing it. Like VR, when Samsung came out with like the headset with their phones with virtual reality, and like people started kind of getting on that, and it's still very new, even though it's been kind of around for several years. It's still very new and fresh. After they are able to make that headset smaller, first off, it's going to help a lot. But this idea of like, you know what, you want to work out, in the Egyptian pyramids or whatever, you can do it. Like, it can take you there and place you in that environment. You want to work out at Gold's Gym Venice, you can do it in Boise, Idaho. You want to work out at Muscle Beach, you can do it in Boise, Idaho. So these are things that people are going to be able to do, assuming they program it into the system. Or if you want to work out on Mars or whatever it might be. But like, there will be a time where it's not just requiring you to go to a gym. Like, you'll bring home a virtual reality set. It'll scan your living room or whatever you decide to put the box up in, to understand the obstacles, and then what it'll do is going to translate those obstacles into useful forms of fitness for you. So maybe you're doing incline push-ups off the couch. The couch is a platform that this VR box or whatever it might be recognizes that, and it designs a program specifically tailored to your living room or the space that you put it in. Like, that's where I think it's going to go. I definitely think that we have so much tech and software now that can essentially, like when you design a home, for instance, home interior decorating, you put your phone in the middle of the room, it'll scan the room, and then you can literally build your entire thing because it always knows what your room looks like. Why can't we adapt that type of technology into VR or into fitness? We absolutely can. So I think depending on what you do, in the future, I think VR or that type of thing for at home is going to happen, and then it'll allow you to kind of like change through different environments. But again, utilizing the environment in which it's set up. Like, I personally think with Black Box VR being sort of spearheading this movement, maybe in fitness, 20 years from now, it's not out of the question that you bring home a box or you bring home whatever it might be. I don't know if boxes are going to exist. It's just going to scan the room and say, okay, we're going to build a gym in this VR platform, put these goggles on or a contact lens or whatever it is, knock yourself out.
Consumer VR has been around, but it's still very, like, it's going to take some time, and I think a lot of it comes down to the hardware around it, like we were mentioning. On the corporate side, like VR has been used extensively. It's where a lot of the investment and a lot of the money is getting made on VR. But in the consumer side, it takes a lot of time for people to kind of wrap their heads around something kind of really crazy like that. But I know that a lot of people are thinking about it. A lot of people are thinking about what's that next reality that we're going to be kind of interacting with. Are we going to know the difference between, first world and second world or third world or whatever, kind of when you want to think about it. But it's, to me, I'm a futurist in a sense. So I find that stuff super interesting. A lot of people think maybe that's the end of the world where robots and machines are going to start to take us over and do whatever. Maybe that's a good workout, though. We'd have to battle the robots.
That could be the future. That could be the future. But I mean, I do like, to wrap up this episode, this whole idea of gamification, and when you brought up Pokemon Go, like, it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And the amount of people that you saw out and about walking, if you looked at the people, this is not trying to be rude at all, but if you looked at those people, that the majority of the people playing Pokemon Go, they were not gym goers. They were not people who believed in physical fitness. Like, their bodies did not show that. But it was so refreshing to see them find something that allowed them to get out and just do something physical. Get their ass off the couch and go. I don't care if it's capturing Pokemon or not. I don't give a shit what it's doing. As long as it's doing something, like, that was absolutely brilliant. And I to your point, like, I'm shocked we haven't seen more of that yet. Like, I'm shocked somebody hadn't looked at Pokemon Go from Nintendo and be like, how can I make money on this in the fitness sense? Like, what can we do? What, make them walk a half mile and 10 push-ups and it unlocks X. Like, that should be here already, and it's not. And it surprises the shit out of me that it's not. And I bet you 2 years from this podcast, it'll be like the popular thing to do. But I think that is really a way to attract new users into this world of fitness, because otherwise they're never going to have the balls to get up off the couch and go into a gym because it just doesn't interest them. They don't care. But if they can have fun while doing it, while capturing Pokemon or whatever it is, it's absolutely brilliant. And I think it was one of the best game inventions of all time. In the history of gaming, like, it was one of the best, if not the best ever that I've ever seen.
We should give Nintendo the Fitness Company of the Year award.
Done. 2 guys, 1 shaker cup right here. Fitness Company of the Year goes to Nintendo. Those sons of bitches did it right. If you guys have any questions or comments on this episode, love to hear what you guys think the future of fitness is going to be. If you've played Pokemon Go, if you've gotten a workout from some other unique, different niche type things, if you've done the Black Box VR thing before, go ahead and hit us up on Facebook. We're at 2 guys, 1 shaker cup. Make sure you follow us on our social channels, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, and we're on YouTube if you want to look at our pretty little faces as well. Until next time, hopefully the Badgers win by 60, and we can have a conversation about that in the future, Josh, because that's futuristic conversation, but I can tell the future, and the future is we're not going to win by 60. We're going to win, just not by 60.